What's going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome to another episode of Tuffy Talk. We really appreciate y'all tuning in here. We're so excited here, even though that we're right in the middle here of the football season that I think we are all very excited about. Believe it or not, we still got men's basketball and women's basketball here coming up here very, very soon. We are actually less than a month here until prime time with the Pack. So wanted to kind of start off here with talking about the men's program, talk about this off season that we had, and then also to start to break down what this team is going to look like next season. And also to, now that we have the schedule, talk a little bit about the schedule. Should just kind of get a little bit of idea of what's coming up the pipeline here. So with that being said, again, just as a reminder, if you haven't already, make sure again to hit that subscribe button, which is free to do. Make sure that you don't miss out on any of our new content, and also to hit that notification bell so that you're actually notified on your devices whenever we go live for any of our Tuffy Talk live shows, any of our watch parties, or release new episodes. And also just a quick reminder as well that we actually have an interview in our members only videos with the NC State men's basketball point guard Jarkel Joyner, who's the Ole Miss transfer. So if you want to check that out, along with all of our other episodes that we have on there, which are members only videos, it's only $1.99 a month. So make sure again to hit that join button below and join for only $1.99. You get access to all our members only videos. You get access to exclusive emojis, badges. You also get access to our exclusive Tuffy Talk members only Discord channel where you can talk with all things in state with us at Tuffy Talk and all the other members as well. And also to make sure, if you haven't already, hit that like button as well. If you're an NC State fan, give us a follow, Tuffy Talk now on Twitter or Instagram. But Greg, Michael, I think that to kind of start things off here, it's easy to say that I think that we can only go up, which is a good thing. Obviously last year left a lot to be seen for sure. Obviously was less than ideal, a lot of issues, but I think from what we've seen in this offseason, which we'll kind of talk a little bit about here to start with, a lot of great additions, a lot of new coaches, completely new assistant coaching staff, a lot of new pieces as well, and definitely a very different setup than we've normally had. So Greg, what are your kind of thoughts, originally kind of looking at this offseason and the moves that Keats has made?
Yeah, I think if you're a fan of men's basketball and particularly NC State, I think very, very much optimistic. Lot of changeover, a lot of new faces. It's going to take a little bit probably for this team to gel. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Mm-hmm. I'm optimistically excited. A lot of new coaches coming in, so a lot of new fresh blood, which is great because you don't have that bitter taste, and these guys don't have that bitter taste that a lot of the players would have had coming back from last year. So very optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, anything to add to that?
A lot of just echoing what Greg said. I mean, didn't think I could be excited or hopeful going into the season after the way last season ended, but transfer portal is the new. It's the way the game operates now, and Keats and his new staff have done pretty well there. So I'd say cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned to Greg, and we kind of talked about the new coaching staff, which I think to me is the backbone. I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to be a great team, you have to have a great coaching staff. You have to have great players around you. And I always think about Doran, how he always says he always wants to have the best coaches around him, because at the end of the day, that's really what kind of helps the players develop, not just you yourself. So Macon, which of the coaches would you say that you're most excited about, being a part of the staff between Levi Watkins, Kareem Richardson, and Joel Justice?
I'm really excited. I think more so with, man, that's tough because they all have different dynamics to them. I think Justice a little bit because he has some more of that high profile pedigree, and he's a local kid. I mean, his dad, I believe it was, coached at Wake Forest as well. So he's been here in the Tobacco Road scene. He knows what it's all about. Obviously Levi Watkins does too. He played at State, and Kareem Richardson was at Clemson for a long time. But I don't know. I think Joel Justice is the guy. I think part of the reason also is I mean, when they hired him in, they mentioned he was more of the analytics kind of guy. So when he was at Kentucky, that's what he was all about. I think was his previous stop Arizona State. Was that right? Yeah. So my understanding,
Kentucky.
My understanding was he was the analytics guy. So when people start saying analytics when it comes to sports, that's a different part of the game that we're still learning more about and what really defines a good player or not. So I would say Coach Justice is probably the one I'm most interested in seeing what impact he can provide.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think for him, I mean, you kind of mentioned it. I mean, I think that of probably any assistant coach in the country, Joel Justice has some of the biggest names in terms of recruiting wise that, he's been able to bring in specifically during his time at Kentucky, which, I mean, I'm sure John Calipari had some to do with that to an extent. But at the end of the day, I mean, 247 gave the credit to Coach Justice. So, something's got to be said there.
He took Bam Adebayo from us, man. He was the guy who took Bam Adebayo from State to Kentucky. So that's all I really need to say about that, because that one really stung for State fans.
Well, and because I mean,
a lot.
Well, and because that was definitely one which. Well, yeah, exactly. But I think especially too, I mean, I think that was one that, kind of not necessarily trying to spend too much time on this, but I think because it was the easiest pitch of all for Gottfried and for NC State, being like, hey, listen, we got your brother from a different mother, Dennis Smith Jr. right here, and you got one of the best point guards in the country, which is like having one of the best quarterbacks in the country if you're from a football side. So, if you come here, you're gonna be a monster just because you have a great point guard running the show. So I mean, for Coach Justice and Calipari to pull him away like that, hats off to him. So
I'll say this too: it'll be interesting to see if you see State run unique types of I would say particularly defensive schemes, but defensive schemes based upon what the analytics are telling the coaching staff. Would it be really interesting to see a triangle and 2 on some teams just because of the way statistically that's worked out? I mean, State typically doesn't, I'd say under Keats has not been as creative defensively, maybe is the word. And
or offensively.
I was going to go there too. But you get what I'm saying? I mean, a box and 1, triangle and 2, a stick and 3. But a
little Princeton.
Princeton. A 1 and 4. No, I'm kidding. But no, I am excited about that. I'd be curious to see if we run any unique types of defenses and offenses based upon what the analytics are telling the staff. I feel like you certainly can't get any worse. So.
Well, exactly. So, but I think, and I guess we can kind of dive into this because, again, I really want to kind of touch on all these new faces. But the thing which I do want to say kind of from a general perspective is I think this is definitely the first time we've seen a bench made up in this way, where it's a lot more big men than Keats has typically had, on his bench. Usually it's pretty guard heavy. Actually, not pretty. It's usually very guard heavy, but now, I mean, you have a couple of different options down low. Obviously, highlighted by DJ Burns. Obviously, I think that Keats and the staff is really excited about. But then you've still got some guys, from last year that have come back as well, and then you have a guy from overseas as well that can easily jump in here and play minutes. So I'm curious, Greg, what's kind of your initial thoughts, in terms of, I mean, do you think that Keats has maybe figured out finally that something's not working? Maybe I got to change things up a little bit.
Yeah, I think after last year when you lost Bates, you lost any kind of inside presence with any kind of upper class seniority, and that's one thing that this team also brings. It's very veteran laden. A lot of players that have played a lot of Power 5 games. Which will be great especially when you get to the ACC schedule. But getting back to the big men, I think we might have more bigs than guards at this point. If I looked at the roster right last time, I think we have 7 technically and 5 guards. I know we have a couple that kind of are right there. I think so.
Wow,
we have.
Yeah, it depends on how you consider Ernest Ross, Greg Dean,
a big.
Yeah.
Well, so on the roster, there's 5. Dusan Mahorchik, the guy from Serbia, EB, Greg Gant, Ernest Ross, and DJ Burns are the 5 you have as juniors. Let's say as juniors on the roster.
So what do they have? Is the other guy they offered, Matty Traore, is he on the roster? He's definitely not a guard. So. But is he? I guess he's technically. Is he on the roster? I can't even pull it up.
He's not.
He's not on the roster yet.
He's not.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The rumor is he'll be joining in the second semester in January.
That is right. Cool. You're right. Yep.
Cool. But even still, that's 6 forwards. I mean, that's
6.
Keats has never had anywhere close to 6 forwards on a roster. That's for sure.
And I think part of it is you're seeing him realizing to a degree how the ACC has really good, front courts, and he's going to have to, so much as he wants to. I think basketball is more of a guards game. A lot of these smaller guards are dominating the game, but and the big man's kind of like a dying name. Although you have guys like Joel Embiid and the Joker in Denver, Nikola Jokic, and but I really think he's saying I got to compete in the ACC, and to do that, I need to have a really strong. And I think you got to have a rotation there. You can't just bank on, Manny and Eby and a true rookie Ernest Ross at times. Maybe you can, but if they're not, developed, ready to go, it's going to be a problem. So you're going to have to go up against Scott. You're going to go against Armando Bacot. You're going to have to go up against some of these forwards that you see from Miami that come up. You're going to have to go up against Duke's centers like Mark Williams of the world. So it's going to be, I think it's a realization, just a welcome to reality kind of thing for Keats.
And to that point making, like we've usually had 1 or 2, and they historically get in trouble with fouls, and then you've got no one to match up later in the game, and then we usually get eaten alive in the second half. Yep. So to your point, we can throw different guys out there for different situations, hopefully based on analytics now.
Well, and the
exactly. Yeah.
Well, and the beautiful thing too is, I mean, I can't even remember the last time, probably. Well, let's put it this way: it's been a while since we've had a larger center. So DJ Burns being 275 finally fits that role a little bit. But also to even a guy like Ernest Ross is a guy I think that was starting to really impress. And then all of a sudden, as he was really impressing, he got injured last year and knocked him out for the season. So that definitely hurt. But kind of talking a little bit more, I really want to talk about DJ Burns first of all. I mean, this is a guy, coming in, a great transfer here that was really impressive. A graduate here. So Michael, what do you think DJ Burns' ceiling is this year?
I think he's going to be able to score the ball like more than we've seen a big man score in Keats' offense. Mostly he's gone after the athletic defensive shot blocker types like Manny Bates. But this is kind of a different type of big man.
Yep.
He was at Winthrop and won the Conference Player of the Year. I don't really have any concerns with him, moving up and saying, how can you play at the ACC level? I mean, he pretty much dominated their conference in 20 minutes a game. He has to get into better shape, which I think from all reports he's doing to play more minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'll be nice to have a reliable scoring option in the post.
Yep. Well, I guess keep in mind too. So he actually originally committed to Tennessee, and then he transferred to Winthrop. And so last year he actually averaged 15 points per game, 4.5 rebounds a game, and his field goal percentage was 62.6. So fairly solid. Definitely, I think the biggest thing which we need this year is we need better rebounding. So that's the only thing. Was I kind of wish he had more rebounds per game than just 4.5. But with this year, who knows? But I think that's one of the biggest things. We got killed on the boards. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I'm going to add this though. That's why you have a guy like Dusan Horchik, because he was known to be a rebounder when he was at Utah, and so. Yeah. Those are the situations where I'm excited about Justice having the flex. And maybe here, obviously, I mean, Keith's probably going to know anyways that if it's like a situation where we just need to play defense here, get a rebound, probably going to put Dusan in here. If we need to go get a bucket here, just put DJ in. Or maybe different situations, you need length or whatever. Maybe you put EB in there. But that's my whole point. There are some flexibility that there is that guy we have recruited to be more the rebounder and DJ. If you ask the question to Michael what DJ's ceiling is going to be, I think first year in the ACC, probably his stats last season, I would say, are going to be where I think his ceiling is this year. I wouldn't expect him to be 25 and 8. as a center. In this offense where Keats loves guards and run, and especially in a year where you have Turquavian, who's going to be the go-to scorer, I don't expect DJ to be blowing it up. But I think his ceiling, could he be a 15 points per game and 4.5 rebounds per game player? Absolutely. So.
Yeah. If you can get your big to run the court, he's going to get rewarded in this offense because we like to run the court. So if you can get your big out in transition, that bodes well for you. But then that requires good conditioning. But I also like the addition of Levi Watkins to the coaching staff, who can really work on the bigs.
He knows what that position's like.
Exactly, and in the ACC, correct. Right? So I think that's where you're going to rely, and I think that's what makes this coaching staff so unique is they all bring very great skill sets. And so you have, you got your guards, you got your analytics guy, you got your bigs guy, and so they're gonna be able to work with these kids. And I think you're going to see them get the most out of them. Where I didn't really necessarily feel that way last year with some of the coaches. Not to take anything away from those coaches, obviously they were working hard, but I think this is a much better mix of coaches for what Keats likes to run.
Yeah. Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. Well, and, I think, one of the biggest things too, I think with any coaching staff, if you can get a guy who wore your colors, I think that was a huge recruiting tool. I think, for example, from the football side, when we had Clayton White, it was great to have because you had somebody there that could really talk to them in terms of this. I was just in your shoes. I got it wasn't too long ago. I was in your shoes. So I think it speaks a lot more to it, but also to the fact. You kind of mentioned it as well that what Levi Watkins did at Ole Miss last year. Super impressive. Really took him to a record-breaking year. And, so I think that especially for Levi, it's going to be big. And then we didn't even mention as well, Kareem Richardson as well, his background. So, if you can kind of give like a 30-second summary making of Kareem, what would you say?
Well, he's got head coaching experience. That's another thing people don't realize about Kareem Richardson. Yep. So I was looking it up. He has 6 years as being a head coach. And he's also been there. He's been at Louisville. It's probably how the connection is there with Keats, other than Clemson. I think he was at Xavier was another stop he was at.
Yep.
Yeah, Xavier. So, that's really – I don't know. Honestly, I don't know a ton about him beyond that. I think he's going to be – he's a well – I think what I understand beyond that, I think he's a well-respected recruiter as well. So you're seeing guys – Keats definitely said one priority is we need to be able to bring in talent. You're seeing that already on the recruiting trail, so that's going to pay off. I honestly don't know if he specializes in guards or forward. I'll have to look into that just to be totally upfront. But he's that's the value. I think you got a head coach on your assistant bench there. Levi and Joel Justice don't have that, so that's valuable to Keats, I believe.
Okay, love it.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, Macon, is these coaches have a lot of ACC experience, right? They've got that pedigree. They know how to recruit North Carolina with Joel. And so I think, Coach Dorn says he wants to put a wall up against the state of North Carolina. There's a lot of good basketball players in the state of North Carolina that, we would like to try to keep in house that don't get away to the Dukes and the Carolinas.
Probably better than football, I'd say.
Oh, I would say that. Yeah,
true. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, kind of transitioning here, the first guy, which we've actually already said his name, but the first guy I wanted to bring up as kind of a new face is definitely Jarkel Joyner. I think that he's a guy that can finally help Turquavian really run the show. I know that last year, we were really missing that true point guard. I know, for example, Sebron played point guard a good amount of time, which we all easily in unison agreed that Sebron is furthest thing from a point guard. So to finally have somebody that has experience obviously, led Ole Miss to a record-breaking year, led the team with scoring 13.2 points per game. So finally kind of getting some of the eyes off of Terquavion Smith. You have to respect him a little bit. And also, too, even averaging 2.3 assists per game, which I definitely expect to go up with the amount of fish we have to feed here, this year. That I think that he can finally be a huge piece that could really help make the other pieces of this team better. So, Michael, what's your kind of original thoughts, to kind of build off of what I just mentioned about Jarkel?
Yeah, no, I'm excited about him. He's a graduate, so he's got 5 years of experience. Or I think this will be his 5th year, but 4 years of playing.
He's a graduate transfer,
college basketball. Yeah, and he can definitely score, which I think is important because hopefully this year you see Terquavion get a little more efficient because there were games last year where he would just disappear.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that's important because if you do have a night where he's just off, then you still have a reliable scorer from the guard position. And like you said, I do expect his assist numbers to go up with Terquavion and with DJ Burns and Jack Clark too. So
yeah. Well, sorry, Michael. The thing I was going to add in there was that because that's the thing that really bugged me. I think that is it's not ideal. Is that basically there was a lot of games last year where it just felt like just Terquavion was trying to shoot himself into the game. He just was it was just obviously not his night, but yet that didn't stop him. He was just keep on still just tossing him up until he finally made one. And it's like that's not ideal. Like, at the end of the day, I mean, you're going to have off nights, players have off nights. And so if you have off nights, you want to be able to, get somebody else the ball who is having a good night. You can't just rely that hopefully the only way that we're going to win is if Big T or Sebron had a great game. Like, that's not how you're going to win, especially when you make it to the postseason where every game you have to win. I mean, you can go ahead and put it down that you're going to have players that have bad games. So you need to find the players that are playing well that night, unless you're playing against Virginia Tech, which everybody was having a bad game that night. But Greg, anything to add from Jarkel perspective?
I myself and Macon did that interview with him, and a couple of things that stood out for me was this is his 3rd stop, but don't let that fool you. This is a guy that wants to step up in competition. He was playing at Mississippi, like we said, and he's actually from Oxford there in Mississippi. So for him just to kind of step out of his comfort to come all the way to Raleigh for one more chance. And he straight up said that he came to Raleigh to make the postseason. He hasn't been to the NCAA tournament, and that's something that he wants to accomplish before he's done playing college ball. So that should tell you a lot what he thinks of this team, that he thinks the ability is there for this team to make a run to the tournament, or he probably wouldn't have come here just finish out a 5th year. So I really liked his confidence. He loves basketball. I mean, all these guys love basketball, but just the way he talked about it and carried himself very well, and just I'm excited to see what he can do with this team. And like you said, we're going to have a true point guard for the first time, in the last 2 years, where we've really struggled the last 2 years. So I'm excited about him and his potential.
Yep. Yeah. And, I think, the other play, which I want to mention here, but, in this first part, because we'll definitely kind of talk more in terms of expectations and kind of breaking down really, what our predictions are kind of deal for in the second part of our recording here. But kind of finishing off, one of the players I want to bring up, which was another graduate student, was Jack Clark from LaSalle, and making, the biggest thing which really stood out to me was that I had mentioned how one of the biggest places that I think we all can agree that we need to improve this year is rebounding. And this is a guy which I think definitely showed potential with rebounding. I mean, there was at one point last year recorded a double-double, 12 points and 11 rebounds. He also, even averaged over 6 rebounds a game, actually. So again, very impressive, from his side. So definitely seeing a lot of potential there for him. So what are your kind of initial thoughts on Jack Clark?
I think Jack Clark's going to be a guy that the casual State fan is going to be the most surprised about this season, because I think everybody's thinking point guard, center. Okay, we lost Cam Hayes. There's Jarkel. We lost Manny Bates. There's DJ. And I think we think, okay, we got Terquavian, we've got Casey, Morcell, we've got some guard options. And I think Jack Clark's going to surprise and catch people off guard behind his ability to score. He was leading score, I think, a few games down there in the Bahamas, or he was one of the better scorers down there at the very least. And it sounds like they're going to really try to feature him, particularly those kickouts to the corner. And you mentioned about Jarkel's assist numbers going probably up. If he's got guys who can score, if he has a center like that who can score, who's averaging like around 60-ish%, 58% field goal percentage, and you got a guy in Terquavian who can do what he can do. If you got a guy in the corner who can just knock down a three, just automatic, and nothing any more than just that, but just be able to knock that shot down like a Scott Wood. I'm not saying he's Scott Wood, but you get what I'm saying? Like, that's a weapon for your offense. So I'm excited about Jack Clark in that regard. I just think he's going to surprise some people. I didn't look much into his defense numbers, but when I see him shoot, I see a really smooth, silky kind of shooter, and long shot, long arch to it. So,
yep. And by the way, too, I wanted to correct that he actually averaged 5.8 rebounds per last year. So, I wanted to correct that. Greg, anything to add to that?
No, for me, he's my wild card on this team. I think to making your point, we don't know a lot about him, but yeah, he did definitely shine down in the Bahamas. He definitely was. I think he had a couple double doubles, if I'm not mistaken.
Wouldn't be surprised
down there. I know he had at least one double double while they were down there. But to your point, also, Megan, if you have that guy that can knock down that shot, it keeps defensive honest, right? So now you're spreading out the defense, and now you get more one-on-one play with down low, or it just gives you more options on the offensive side where we've not had anything consistent other than Smith and Sebron last year. So I think we're going to be really surprised at how better we score the ball and how better we distribute the ball than in
I'm going to add this note here too. With the wild card comment, I mean, I think you're going to see potentially even more wild card. What's at that 4 spot? But I think you could use Jack Clark as that stretch forward, or like that fourth guard. You could have Jarkel, Terquavian, Casey, and Jack on the court at the same time with DJ. And particularly if Casey, because Casey got hurt last year, right? So he took a while to get back. He started to slowly kind of show signs of life with his ability to come back. But if he can really be like an effective scorer, average like 10 to 12 to 14 points per game, that's going to be really nice to have that, because Keats likes a stretch four. That's kind of the where the game's going. Again, it's a guard's game, and he's a big guard, Jack Clark is. So I think that will be very versatile. And Keats is going to, I think you're going to see that a lot personally. I think you're going to see Jack at the 4.
I think
and also go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think he's gonna just take that spot of Jericho Helms, and because Helms played the 4. But Helms at times was a liability on the rebounding side, but hopefully Jack Clark improves there.
You go ahead, Leighton.
Well, the one thing which I want to add, which just kind of a statistic here, is that in the Puerto Rican comeback game, in the game against Puerto Rico comeback game, which we'll talk more about in the second part, he scored 26 and 11 rebounds. He had 26 points, 11 rebounds.
Right. Super I thought that was in the 20s, and I think he had another second game where he was in the 20s. But the difference between Helms and Jack, I think Helms really he got comfortable getting down into like the block and like just bumping into his shot, back in his shots, like an old school post player almost.
Yeah.
And he kind of had that odd kind of side shot he would like to do. But I don't think you're going to see Jack do that a whole lot. Although it's going to, you're right, it's going to be a similar role. But I think Jack's going to be truly more of a guard.
Spot up.
Yeah, spot up in the corner shot. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. The one comment I'll add to kind of close this out is I think he gives you the ability to give the other team different looks, right? And we've gotten a lot more bigs now, so we can run big, we can run small, we can run stretch. So just depending on the dictation of the game, we can throw different looks out there and just to keep the other defense honest and make them adapt. See how well they make adjustments in the game, and then you just go off of that, and whoever's hot, you ride that for that game. But I think that's just something that we haven't had the last couple of years.
I agree. All right. So with that being said, we're going to pause right there for the first part. We'll continue here, kind of talking about some of these new pieces, talk about what we've seen so far in the couple of games while they were playing overseas during an exhibition style, and also to talk more about the schedule, talk more about expectations, what our bars are, etc. So make sure to tune in for part 2. If you haven't already, and make sure you do not miss out whenever we release part 2, make sure to, again, that hit that free subscribe button, hit that notification bell, which is free as well. So that way you're notified whenever we go live for our Tuffy Talk live shows, for our watch parties, and also too when we release new episodes. And also to make sure, again, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that join button. And only for $1.99 a month, you get all kinds of exclusive content, including our interviews with Jarkel Joyner. So make sure to check that out. Again, super, super cheap. Only less than $24 a year. I mean, I think that's super, super effective value there for what you're getting. And also to make sure you hit that like button if you're an NC State fan just like us, and also to make sure to give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now, on Twitter or Instagram. But thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you all for part 2. As always, go Pack, baby.